Hey there, welcome to day 1690 of What Ship to Now. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom, documenting the journey, primarily business journey, as I transitioned in 2017 from the brick and mortar corporate world of business over a quarter century in corporate America, while simultaneously running and building and growing and supersizing different businesses in different industries. And then following my divorce in 2017, I decided I wanted to do something entirely different than I'd ever done before. And so I decided, always been curious about the internet and the online world, so I hopped on and made a lot of mistakes. It'd be nice to say, oh, I hopped on and I was an instant overnight gazillionaire, but that's not what happened to me or pretty much anyone else who's ever done anything of any significance. It takes time, energy, dedication, discipline, consistency, focusing on what you want and what you're trying to create, etc. A whole lot of things that some people will tell you about, but the vast majority of people won't. Everybody's, especially when it comes to the online world, out there spotlighting how awesome they are and all the highlights of their lives, but they're not telling you and showing you, unless you pay them, of course, lots of money, exactly what they did and how they got there. And it's always different than what we think it is. And what we do see is always only the tip of the iceberg, right? It's only a little bit, and it's only a fraction of what somebody is really like. It's like watching a television series or a TV show and thinking that, or reading a book even, that everything about that person's life and thinking and beliefs and thoughts and feelings is in that series, in that show, in that episode, in that book. It's not, because we can only share, and words can only communicate so much. Words and pictures and movies and things can only communicate so much. Nobody really lives in our skin and knows exactly what's going on with us. And we all have good times, and we all have times where we're freaking struggling and we're just like, what the hell, what am I going to do now? And I include myself in that. I've had some really, really trying, challenging times in my life and wanted to give up, and I'm like, well, it's not really an alternative, right? It's an alternative, but it's not what I'm ever going to choose. I'm always going to find a way to figure it out. Sometimes that process is really, really painful. Other times it's easy, and the more we do it, the more we solve problems, the more we figure things out in our life, the more we let go of the past and move on with the future and realize that 99% of everything that we want, desire, and create comes from inside of us. We've already got it in us already. We just have to figure out how to tap into it. And a lot of that, in any area or aspect of our life, success is driven by, it's always driven and created by us, but it also always comes from within. And a lot of times we want to assess blame or make excuses to ourselves and other people about why things aren't going the way we want them to. But again, the only thing we can control, the only thing we have power over is ourselves. As much as we want to have control over anyone and anything else on the planet, the truth is we really don't. It's up to us to decide what everything means for us. It's up to us to decide what to do and what actions to take or not take about everything, knowing that whatever we do, it's going to have a series of consequences. It's going to have an effect on things, and we have to not always know what those are going to be. It's impossible to know what those are going to be because everything around it is changing all the time. But we also know that there's some actions we absolutely positively shouldn't take. If I eat sugar every single day and lots of it, what's going to happen? Well, I'm probably going to get really, really fat and unhealthy and probably end up with type 2 diabetes. And so even though I don't know for sure that that would happen, because there are people that eat sugar every day and never get diabetes, and why would I ever think or believe that I would get that? Why would I think that it would cause diseases? Well, that's anchored in my belief system, my thoughts, my beliefs, the things we think often, and heredity and all kinds of other factors, which I have no control over. But I do have control over whether I choose to eat sugar every day or not, whether I choose to exercise or not, whether I choose to think positively or negatively or not, whether I choose to believe that the past equals the future or not. I gave up that belief a long, long time ago because in my life it hasn't shown up that way at all. Just because I did something or believed something in the past doesn't make it true for me today. And a lot of the things I did believe in the past to be absolute truths, over time I learned were just stuff I made up in my head, and it wasn't true at all. It certainly wasn't true for me, but it's not even true for most people. So, lessons learned. Our idiom for supersize your business today was to spread like wildfire. And I realized, and I guess I've known it for a long time, which is why I don't watch the news and the media, and I try to turn all of that nonsense off and think for myself, is bad news and problems and challenges and gossip, which is almost always bad news. Have you ever noticed that? If somebody's gossiping about somebody else, they're almost always spreading something negative or some kind of bad news. You know, did you see what she wore to work today, etc. And do we want to participate in that? I will admit, when I was young and first getting involved in the business and the work world, I did stand around the water cooler and listen and say, yeah, oh yeah, I didn't notice, but I will. Things like that, and I went along with it. And sometimes going along with things that we know are absolutely wrong and not right is as bad as participating in them. So I had to learn that lesson early on about what isn't acceptable behavior for me. I don't care if other people want to gossip around the water cooler or tell tales or spread misinformation or information that they don't know is misinformation. Go for it, have at it, but it doesn't mean that I have to participate in that. So that was our idiom for today. Spread like wildfire. We talked about how do we use this in our business in a positive way to get the messages out that we want to spread, things like our brand, our new product launches, things like that, versus what other people, the truth is, if we don't control that narrative and put out intentionally what we want to put out into the world will make up a narrative for us based on bits and pieces and misinformation or other people's interpretation. Always reminds me of that telephone game that we play in grade school to show how a message changes from the first child to the last child. And even a chain of 3 or 4 people, it gets totally convoluted. So that's our idiom for today. Our topic for today was the P in the SOAP framework. We're covering the SOAP framework with respect to an area or aspect of communication in our lives. And I picked social media because it's an area of communication that I want to improve. And that's what we do. We pick an area or something that comes up that we know we want to improve, and we say, okay, I want to improve this on purpose. I don't want to wait to make a choice and a decision or for something really, really bad to happen. I want to be proactive, and I want to consciously apply the SOAP framework. We've done that every month this year with respect to the different areas and aspects of our life, according to the life framework that I personally use. You know, some people have different life frameworks. A lot of people don't use a life framework at all. They just go from day to day to day to day, and that works for them. So the P in the SOAP framework stands for progress. And with respect to progress, how do I know that I'm going from where I am to where I want to be? Because we want to fill that gap, because there's always a gap. If something is not where we want it to be, there's a difference between where we are and where we want it and how we want it to show up in our life. So we want to find ways to measure that and know that the actions that we're taking along the way are actually moving us toward that. Because it'd be awesome if results and desired results ran in a nice straight line from where we are to where we want to be. But the truth is they don't. Things happen all the time because most of what we want is impacted by things outside of us, things that we don't control. So we want to intentionally control the things we can control and check and see if those things are making a difference and helping us move toward what we want faster, easier, more efficiently, and more effectively. If I can help you in any way, hit me up. I have some personal work to do today. Somebody reminded me of some things yesterday that I wanted to deny, but they're absolutely true, and so I'm going to work on those things today. We always need to be working on ourselves, right? Because that's the one thing we can control, and I am no different than you when it comes to that. I'm always looking for things, and when they're shown to me because someone tells me, that absolutely positively means that it's happening way more than I'm consciously aware of, so I need to work on that. All right, have an awesome day. I will, of course, be with you tomorrow.